Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now I realize like what I was talking about with space and time and everything and extension. Remember, we are trying to understand materiality and immateriality. So we've defined the material as something that has extension. Okay, material is something that has extension, meaning it has a size, is extended in space. That's what we define material as. And immaterial is something that has no extension. It has no extension. It has no size. It's not extending in space. It's not extended anywhere. It has no extension. Now, we realized that when we started talking about material stuff, that uh, what is the space that they're extended in? Is that space, is it material or is it not material? That's the next question now, because is either space is material or is immaterial? If it is immaterial, that means it has no extension. Then space itself would have no size. Then the question is, how are things extending in something that has no size? Okay, that's one. If it is material, then space is just material, is the main material. Then things that are extending in it is that they are on it, which will lead to other problems, or they are in it, which will lead to other problems, or they are a part of it. So we'll just become space. Everything will just become space. Okay? Because we are all material, and space will be like the fundamental material. Then motion is impossible in that sense. Because how can you move in somewhere that is absolutely united? A unity, it will be like a block or something. You cannot move. Anyway, but the point is that I now ask the question like, if we say that space is a material and is extended, the next question is, what is space extended in? That question will always be there. The moment you want to try to stop it, what is it extended in? Now we've left the material things like particles and things. We are talking about space itself. So then I realized like, then we should be talking about what is even extension. What is that thing that we've been saying? Extension, size, and things like that. What if that is the most fundamental thing? What if extension is the most fundamental thing? Then I said, okay, what is that? What is extension? So for something to have a size, is that like that x-axis, y-axis, 3D, that's a 2D, then 3D, z-axis, so you have x, y, z. But the main one is x and y. You have length and width. Length and width, okay? If you have length and width, that is something. Even the line you use to draw it, that line, it has a size. Imagine x-axis has no size, is 0, and y-axis is 0. What do you get? You don't get a point, you get 0, you get nothing. That's why we are saying, you see, that extension itself, it has to have a size. So we already presupposing, okay, define extension. Extension is the size of something. It has to be, is a property then. It's like a property of things. So if space is just a property of material things, once material things are gone, there is no space. And that's the argument I think most physicists will say. But the flip side of that is that there are other problems, which I can point out in another video. But the point I'm showing is that, so we can make a case that, okay, fine. Space then is like, since is an extension, extension itself, we are presupposing it that it has some kind of size. Do you understand? So extension is like, you can't define extension without size, and only material things have size. Therefore, without material things, there is no size. There is no extension. That's the conclusion. Okay? So what this means is that the real thing is actually material object, is not space. So space does not exist, is a property of things that exist. So it will mean that, and you know something about properties? Properties don't exist in and of themselves also. They exist in things. Okay? So if you say someone is stupid, a property of stupidity. Stupidity doesn't exist somewhere. It exists in somebody. It exists in people. Without people, there's no stupidity. Okay? So if you think about it like that, then space becomes a property. And we only have access to material things. And if everything is now material, therefore, do you see? If everything is material, then it will explain the extension that we have. Okay, fine. But it will not explain. There's also more problems. There's still more problems. Guys, we are thinking here. We are thinking together. I'm trying to flesh it out more. But since we already defined it like extension, material things, immaterial, no extension. Okay? And we defined extension as like something has length and width or something like that. And we know that now if we have material things, we have established okay, material things, only material things exist. Even space is a property of material things, and material things have extension. Then the question of what are they extended in will not make sense anymore, right? That's what we want to say. They are not extended in anything. They just are, and they just have their size and extension. That's it. Then, how do you now speak of expansion? For instance, how do things expand? How do things expand? I can understand if they have a size for some reason, for whatever reason, they just have size. Boom. This thing is 5 centimeters. I don't care how you got that size. But how do you explain when that 5 centimeters becomes 6 centimeters? How is that possible? Because for it to become 6 centimeters, it has to move. It has to displace into something. Do you see? So it maybe what space is actually potentiality, a potential to increase or decrease. Maybe that space, like what the material things, they have this potential that they can grow. That's their, whatever that means. There can be some metaphysical stuff, that baggage that will come with that. But I'm just saying, maybe that's what it is. Potentiality, okay, it has the potential. It has the potential to increase. And the question of displacement, we'll just answer it by saying it is the nature of material things to just displace in that fashion without any reason. Okay, just like they have their size without any reason, they can increase their size without any reason. And that's all. That's what we have to, that's it. There's no question of what are they extending into. The only extension that is happening is with the material things, and they can extend and they can expand. We have to bank the table like that. Okay, that's one way to do it, right? But there's also another issue, I think. The other issue is that once we establish this, then there are no gaps. Remember this, there cannot be gaps between material things then. Because that gap, it has to be material. We've already established that there's nothing that is not material. With this move of removing space and making space a property, the material things cannot be distinct from themselves. They have to be, because that gap has to be explained. If that gap is just another material, then that proves our point that there's no gap. Okay, it's just a block of things. A block, a slab, an impenetrable block that is just a slab like that is just increasing. That's what will be space. And we are not even talking about time yet, but it doesn't matter. We're just doing an inquiry into how do we understand these things. Okay, if there's no gap and somehow it wasn't expanding, then motion will be impossible. There will be a limit and it will be impossible to move. But if there's expansion, then motion is possible. Motion is possible. In even that block, it can continue to grow, and things on it will seem like they are moving or growing because it's expanding. Okay, and but if it's impossible to extend, if we want to deny that potentiality argument, it will mean that they cannot extend, and therefore motion is impossible. Nothing can grow. Whatever we experience, maybe we'll use time to explain those ones, or occasionalism or something similar, like that, like motion picture or something. It wouldn't be like we're actually moving. And this is argument that occasionalism stuff might actually be stronger than it seems, to be fair. But anyway, we've looked at it and we've seen that there's no point going further down than material stuff to look for space in itself, because that thing is either going to be material or immaterial. If it is immaterial, it will have no size, then it's impossible for things to grow in it, to say. Then it has to be material. And if it is material, then it has size. That's it. That's why things are inside, because there's size. And we've seen like there's no point even asking that question, because if it's material, then why don't we just explain things with material things with size? Why do you have to postulate some kind of other extension itself? So space become a property of things or of a thing. Maybe it's not even things. Maybe because we said it's a unity, then it's a thing. Space is the size of a thing, the only thing that exists, the only thing that is expanding, the only thing that is that material, the only thing that is materiality. That's what space is. The totality of that. Is the property of the totality of that block of material that is indivisible. Okay, now another question is that if it's, we said that potentiality argument will make it possible for it to increase, okay, to expand. But what about to decrease? Would it make it possible to decrease? And if we say, yeah, if it's possible to like reduce its size somehow, it should be possible. If you introduce that potentiality argument, it will be possible to increase and it will be possible to decrease the size of that block. Now, is there any limit to how much it can increase? There will not be any limits because of the potentiality. It continues infinitely. And is there any limit to it decreasing? Yes, there will be limits to it decreasing, because if it decreases to the level where there's nothing there, then it's not material anymore. And we already said you can't have without material, so it will always be not zero. It can be infinitely large, but it cannot be zero. That will be what we'll come to conclusion to, because once it's zero, it's not material anymore. Okay, and it has to be material. Therefore, it cannot be zero. But maybe someone can say, why not? Why can't it be zero and just eliminates itself? And then we have nothing once again. There will be nothing. And it cannot come back from that, because the potentiality space is closed off. Okay. Now, you can even make another argument that what if there are potentiality pockets that are immaterial, empty spaces, not space in the real sense, empty potential regions. I don't know how to explain it. That materiality springs up in them. Materiality springs up in those empty potential places that you cannot see. They just spring up, and that's how you get existence of material things in the first place. And then they just keep growing. And all of this, who is doing all of this? And you want to talk about not bringing God into the picture to explain some of these things. You're not the one in charge. You're not the one controlling this. You are part of the system, trying to look at what is even this system. But our brains transcend the body. That's the only thing we have. Our mind transcends the body. So we are able to look and reflect and go deeper and slash things better than any computer in the world. So they are trying to divide atom. My mind already cuts it into two. Given that it has a size, I already cut it into two. You're trying to find the temperature that is lower than negative 273. I'll give you negative 278. How about that? I can use numbers and just, in my mind, just reduce things and make things big. I can fly in my mind. I can do a lot of things in my mind. Our mind transcends the body. That's the only thing. So our mind is actually not part of all of this. It's immaterial. It's not part of all of this. Anyway, let me not go too far into that. See you guys later. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.